Hey, hello everybody, welcome back to one more Tom Clancy's Vision 2 video. So today's video is another build video, a special build for what I wanted to do a long time ago. Now before we get into this, right, I know we have all these upcoming changes, and just think about it guys, we have about probably 3 months until this update comes and all these changes drop. So my suggestion is just play the game normally and just enjoy the game. If you want to take a break, that's up to you. If you want to not farm anymore, that's up to you. I'm just gonna keep on playing the game just normal and enjoy the game until the update drops. With that out of the way, so let's talk about this build, right? So I made this build because honestly I've been thinking about making this build a long time ago, since that time that I make that build video that says unbreakable monster. In that video I said something about I wish if I had a bloodsucker on that, but I only had the unbreakable, right? So now I made the bloodsucker version of this build, and you guys can see in the footage how much armor I'm having by just deleting enemies armor, right? So this build I'm calling it the armor thief. That's the best name I came up with, but the point is on this build, as long as you're killing enemies that has armor, that blue armor that you have on top of the normal armor that you have, it's gonna help you a lot. It's gonna make you more tanky, because before they get to your armor they're gonna have to take the armor on the blue first. So with that said, you get the point. You get even tankier with this build as long as you are killing a lot of enemies that has armor. So I would say this build will perform really good on control points, or even just regular stuff that you do on the open world or missions besides the heroic. So the heroic, you can use this build, but the problem is on the heroics you get a lot more red enemies instead of enemies with armor. The red enemies, they don't have armor, so you don't take a full advantage of this bloodsucker build. So this is the build guys, and this is where the final product got me to, right? There is some stuff in here I will explain as I go, but this is the best that I've got making this build. I make sure I had the bloodsucker in there, I had damage to lead, and also I had the talent spark. I wish if I had 100% hazard protection. That was part of the plan for this build, but we could not. But I will explain how you could get it if it was possible. Let's start off with the guns, right? We have the police M4 with measured and Allegro. The measured talent says the top half of the magazine has 20% rate of fire and minus 15% weapon damage. The bottom half of the magazine has minus 20% rate of fire and 30% total weapon damage. So it will flip, and one part of the magazine has more rate of fire, and then the second part of the magazine will have more weapon damage. On the second talent we have the Allegro plus 10% rate of fire. Now speaking of measured, there is a better option for measured, which is the perfect measured that comes on the rail splitter, which by the way is a great weapon. You can use it on this build. I'm just not using it anymore. I'm taking a break from it because I've used it many times, I've showed many times on my videos. I'm just trying the police M4 for now because I do like the police M4. Another option also, you could use the pyromaniac. I like it, and it works great for me on any PvE content, so I do like it a lot. So you could use that also. So for the mods, we have on the side, we have hollow sight that gives us 8% damage to elite. For the magazine, we have the studded extended magazine that gives us plus 20 rounds and minus 10% reload speed. On the laser point, we have 5% critical hit chance, and then on the muzzle we have 5% damage to elite. As a secondary, I am using the charter box. Now you could use the merciless, but the only reason I would use the merciless is to proc that talent on my backpack by using the brutality. But I do have a drone, right? So for now I'm using the blottermouth, which is while holstered, reloading your weapon within 5 seconds after a kill grants 15% rate of fire for 10 seconds. So that's more DPS to our build, and like I said, I do have the striker drone in here, so I don't feel the need of using the merciless for the holster talent. Alright, jumping down for the builds, starting off with the mask. So we have the first budget tough mask on this build. By having 2 budget tough, which we have on this build, it's gonna give us 7% damage to elite and 15% armor on kill, which is super important on this build. That's the whole point of this build, armor on kill. So that's the part that we have in 15% armor on kill. On the attributes, we have 2 reds and 1 blue. The first red gives us 48% damage to elite, and the second red gives us 4% critical hit chance, and then the blue is 12,800 health. Now in here is where you could get your build to get to 100%. On the mask, you want to have at least 50% hazard protection, and on here I would say if I get a mask, a better measure tough that has some damage to elite, 50% hazard protection, and then some 12,000 health, that would be the perfect scenario, right? Because I do get 50% hazard protection on this build already. I just need 15% more, right? But until then, this is all I have, but I'll be farming for that until I get it, right? So that's the best option if you can get on the mask. Moving down for the chest piece, we have a Ferris Group AB. By having 1 on this build, we have 10% assault rifle bonus from the set. The attribute is going to be 2 reds and 1 blue. 7.5% headshot damage, 16,000 armor, which is kind of low. I wish if I get around 30,000, but this is all I got. And then we have plus 14.5% weapon damage. That's right there is a lot of weapon damage that we're getting on this build. So yeah, for the talents, we have the start of the show, which is the Bloodsucker. Depleting an enemy's armor adds a stack of 25% bonus armor for 10 seconds, and the stacks is 6, and that's how we getting that much armor, making us more tanky because the NPCs need to take that first armor before they get to you and to kill you, right? And then the second talent, we have hard hitting, plus 25% damage to elite. Pretty straightforward. The mods, we have 1 blue mod in here, which is gonna be 3,900 armor, 3% explosive resistance, and 4% total armor. For the holster, we have the first Gilligard on this build. We do have 2 Gilligards on this build, and by having 2, you get 5% total armor and 20% hazard protection. For the attributes, we have 12,600 armor on kill, which is very important on this build, right? Because on the holster, you can get a good amount of armor on kill. I believe the max is around 18,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I do have 12,000 in here. So make sure you get that if you're making this build. And then on the red attribute, I just have 7% critical hit chance. It's not necessary in here. I could go with some more health in here just to make my character more tankier, but same time 7% critical hit chance just mean more DPS, right? It doesn't hurt by having it. For the mods, we have a 2 offensive mods because Gilligards comes with 2 offensive mods which help us get more damage. So we have 4% assault rifle damage and 1.5% weapon damage, and we have 2 of those, right? So that's what we have. Moving up For the backpack, we have a Douglas and Harding backpack, one of them in this build, and it will give us 5% accuracy. Now this backpack, I used it a lot in all of my builds most of the time lately, because it just gives me a lot of armor. I have 20.5% total armor and 19,000 armor, so adding those two right there is gonna give me a lot of armor on my builds, on any build basically. Now in here we have a red with 5.5% critical hit chance. I wish if this was weapon damage, even like just 3%, I would take that, but that's all I have, so I will have to rock with that. For the talents, we have Spark, damaging enemy with a skill or explosives grants plus 15% weapon damage for 15 seconds, and we have the Striker Drone doing the job for us, activating this talent all the time. We just gotta activate the Striker Drone, right? Then second talent, we have Hardener, plus 15% armor. For the mods, we have one offensive mod in this backpack with 2% weapon damage and 4% assault rifle damage for this build. Moving down, we have the second Budget Tough in this build. Like I said, 7% damage to elite and 15% armor on kill. For the attributes, 2 blues and 1 red. The first one is 1138 armor regen, which I don't know how it works still. Hopefully they can make it more visible on the next update, but I wish if I had hazard protection in here, because this is another way that you can get hazard protection, is on the gloves from the Budget Tough, because you can get 3 attributes on it. So we have 10% assault rifle damage, we can go up to 13. I don't have that, but that's all I have, and then 4,800 health. So all of these can be a lot better. If you can get that, that's good for you. Then last but not least, we have the last Gila Guard on this build, plus 5% total armor and 20% hazard protection from this build that like I said, and then attributes 12% total armor, and then the talent is going to be isolated. Now if I had the 50% on the mask and then I have 2 Gila Guards and isolated, that's 100% hazard protection that I could have on this build, and I will be farming for that once I get that mask that I'm looking for. So that's why I have isolated in here. But you guys know how the RNG works. If I wait until I get that mask to show you guys the build, it's gonna be never. So I'm showing you guys the build and let you guys know what I wish if I had. So for the mods, because the Gila Guard, you get 2 defensive mods, one that has 7,900 armor, 1% health and 1.5% total armor, and I have 2 of those, right? And basically that's it. That's the build though. So for the skills, I do have the Striker Drone, and then I have the Reviver Hive. I have the Reviver Hive just an option in here in case you go down, but I don't have really like a second skill to use. So whatever you want to use in there, that's up to you. And then the Striker Drone has to be on this build just because you want to activate that talent on the backpack. Otherwise you have to use the Merciless. Now going to the stats, right? Let's take a look at the stats. So for the weapons, we have Police M4 that is hitting for 20,000 weapon damage, and then 21.5% critical hit chance, 25% critical hit damage, 63% headshot damage. And then if you go on offensive stats, right, we have 47% assault rifle damage plus 19.5% all weapon damage. And if you add those two, right, it's gonna be a total of 66.5% weapon damage, correct me if I'm wrong. And then damage to elite, we have 93% damage to elites. Then if you go on the defensive stats, we have 393,000 armor, which is almost 400,000. And then armor on kill, we have 111,000 armor on kill. That's a lot of armor on kill. Remember, we killing NPCs fast. And then also we have that 25% total armor that we getting from the Bloodsucker. So on top of that 111,000 armor, we're getting a 25% on top of that, right? So that's a lot of armor that we're getting on kill, and that's gonna help us stay alive, right? And like I said, if you scroll down, you see I have 50% hazard protection on this build. If I get that mask with 50% hazard protection on it, then I will be golden. I will have exactly what I want with 100% hazard protection on this build, and this build will be really good even better than it is right now. Now, before I forget, let me show why I'm using the gunner, the specialization gunner. It's because of this passive talent right here. Killing enemies grants 10% armor on kill. So that's the main reason we're using gunner, because this build is involved around armor on kill. So for that reason, we have the gunner. So guys, basically that's it. That's the build. Like I said, I do enjoy using the Bloodsucker. I mentioned that on that last video about the unbreakable monster, which by the way, I'm not saying unbreakable is not good, because a lot of people like it and it's great actually, and I just prefer the Bloodsucker. As a fact, that unbreakable build, I actually got it even better. Actually, I feel like I got it better. I have the build right here. I call it the nomad build. I don't know if I want to make a video about it, just because I made a video about it. I just basically got it better on a better spot. If you guys want to see a video about it, let me know. I'll make a video about it. But it's basically similar to that build that I posted before, but it's just right now it's I feel like it's a little bit better. But yeah, so this is the build for the Bloodsucker today. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hit me with a like, I would appreciate. If you're new, feel free to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.